All right, here we go. Seems like last night Tucker Carlson went on TV. This is the most dangerous man in America. He is a total nutball. I was going to do a video about Sean Hannity's history lesson, but Tucker, as he always does, comes in and just, I don't know, makes Hannity and Ingram earn their money because he just goes way off base. Everything he says is way crazier than the normal stuff that's on Fox. And that takes a lot. So the way I do it is that you see what these people have to say for your own point of reference. I don't have to cut snippets and do anything like that. That's what everybody's complaining about, is that each one of the news channels frames and attacks some portion. So there won't be any out of context with me. There won't be any that's not all he said or this whatever else. I'm going to play what he said. And then I'm going to come back and explain to you why it's so goddamn stupid.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. Happy Monday. One of the great unsolved mysteries of the past 4 years is why certain types of people with certain types of jobs hate Donald Trump so much, really hate him, obsess over him, think about him when they wake up in the morning, would hurt him if they could. Why the fixation? It has nothing to do with the reasons that normal people sometimes get annoyed with Trump, the bragging, the short attention span, the rants on Twitter. None of that justifies hatred or obsession. Plenty of politicians have unappealing personal qualities. Teddy Kennedy killed a woman, and he's still a hero to the Democratic Party. No, the reason the ruling class despises Donald Trump is because they can't control him. Trump throws the bit. He refuses to mouth their lyrics. He will not obey. At any moment, Donald Trump is liable to come out with something that you're absolutely not allowed to say. Borders make countries, for example. China is our enemy. Whoopi Goldberg isn't that funny. All of it undeniably true, and that's the point and the problem. Trump's words hang in the air for all to see and to assess, and they are therefore a massive threat to people whose livelihoods depend upon fraud and lying. Trump is the most dangerous to his enemies when he tells the truth. In fact, they're his enemies precisely because sometimes he does tell the truth, and he did it the other day. On Friday, the president gave a speech at Mount Rushmore. He spoke eloquently about the BLM riots and what they mean for the country. Here's part of it.
Make no mistake, this left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. In so doing, they would destroy the very civilization that rescued billions from poverty, disease, violence, and hunger, and that lifted humanity to new heights of achievement, discovery, and progress. To make this possible, they are determined to tear down every statue, symbol, and memory of our national heritage.
Our national heritage, it's something we can be proud of. This country defeated both fascism and communism. Our revolution inspired democratic revolutions around the world, from South America to India. Even today, pro-freedom demonstrators in Hong Kong, where the stakes are very high, wave the American flag to express their hope and their defiance. Our economy and our schools created the world's first and the greatest educated middle class. Our engineers and our scientists invented the airplane and the transistor and virtually everything else in modern life. They also transformed agriculture. They ended famine on most of the globe. Our richest citizens became famous not for the palaces they built to themselves, but for the philanthropy they gave to others. Andrew Carnegie built countless libraries for the poor. John D. Rockefeller eradicated hookworm in the South. These are not the deeds of an evil country. They're the accomplishments of a great country. Yet, as the president pointed out, American school children learn virtually none of this. Instead, our curricula have become a toxic mix of lies and omission, all of it designed to poison our children against the country that formed them.
Against every law of society and nature, our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes, but that were villains. The radical view of American history is a web of lies. All perspective is removed. Every virtue is obscured. Every motive is twisted. Every fact is distorted. And every flaw is magnified until the history is purged and the record is disfigured beyond all recognition.
Every word of that is true. If you have kids in school, you know it may even be understatement. What is happening in our classrooms right now in 2020 is a crime. It is long past time that a sitting president said so. And then Trump kept going. Toward the end of his speech, he defended the core promise of America, the principle this country was founded on. It's the only principle that will allow America to survive going forward, a nation where all citizens are equal from birth and as a result enjoy equal rights and equal protection under the law. It's the America our Declaration of Independence describes.
We believe in equal opportunity, equal justice, and equal treatment for citizens of every race, background, religion, and creed. Every child of every color, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of God. We want free and open debate, not speech codes and cancel culture. We embrace tolerance, not prejudice. We support the courageous men and women of law enforcement. We will never abolish our police or our great Second Amendment, which gives us the right to keep and bear arms. We believe that our children should be taught to love their country, honor their history, and respect our great American flag. We stand tall, we stand proud, and we only kneel to Almighty God. This is who we are. This is what we believe. And these are the values that will guide us as we strive to build an even better and greater future.
We almost never play sound bites that are that long. Politicians rarely give speeches worthy of it. Most what they say is garbage, and we don't want to repeat it. But Friday's address at Mount Rushmore was probably the single best speech Donald Trump has ever given. It was a roadmap for his reelection message, but more than that, it was a roadmap for the country itself. Equality, decency, pride in our nation. Those were the themes. Naturally, the liars on television deeply hated every word of it.
There's really a myth of America, that this idea that America treated people well, that they treated men and women equally, that we founded this country just by our own wits, that is actually a lie.
Much of American political propaganda over the course of our history has tried to completely erase, ignore, lie about the ugly parts of our history.
Mount Rushmore isn't exactly the innocent ode to our founding fathers as described in our textbooks, and it's high time we disrupt that false narrative that far too many people believe. Here we are, celebrating the birth of a nation, independence for white men, at a site described by one Native American activist as, quote, a symbol of white supremacy.
If you spent the rest of your life trying to locate, to identify the worst people in this country of 330 million, you couldn't get a purer distillation than what you just saw. These people are liars. They're the same people who spent the last month telling you that the riots you saw live on television were actually peaceful protests against racism. That was a lie. They knew it was a lie when they said it, but they said it anyway in order to undermine a country that they hate. Yes, hate. America deserves to be in flames. That is their view. And this weekend, they said it essentially out loud. Mount Rushmore, they told us, must go. It is illegitimate, just like the nation it celebrates.
President Trump will be at Mount Rushmore, where he'll be standing in front of a monument of two slave owners and on land wrestled away from Native Americans.
With these founding fathers, with these monuments that we don't want to forget, what do we do with them? Maybe they don't stand in the town square, but should they stand anywhere? Should we demolish them?
It's been polluted. It's been desecrated by putting these slave-owning, racist, horrible, horrible white men and 60-foot statues on this wall.
When you look at this place, this land, the Black Hills, the history is a dark one.
But it's not just the land that has been stolen in a place like Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills. It's the theft of history, the theft of the narrative.
It's worth reminding folks that the man who carved the monument behind me had deep ties to the KKK.
The mother of all photo ops, Mount Rushmore. And we know why this president just can't resist going there.
So Mount Rushmore is now a symbol of evil, just like your nation. Where's this all going? As writer Matt Taibbi put it, quote, CNN even put independence in quotes when describing the holiday. This will end with Wolf Blitzer dressed in a dashiki pulling the switch to dynamite the Statue of Liberty, end quote. Pretty funny, but suddenly it's getting easier to imagine that happening. On the morning of July 4th, the Washington Post summarized the president's speech, the one clips of which we just played, this way, quote, President Trump's unyielding push to preserve Confederate symbols and the legacy of white domination, crystallized by his harsh denunciation of the racial justice movement Friday night at Mount Rushmore, has unnerved Republicans who have long enabled him. For real. That was not an opinion piece, by the way, on the op-ed page. It was a news story written by two Washington Post reporters. They described the president's defense of equality under the law as, quote, Trump's push to amplify racism. Jeff Bezos' newspaper. Local politicians joined the chorus. The mayor of Nashville canceled the city's 4th of July fireworks, but allowed BLM protests to continue unimpeded. In Richmond, city officials ordered a construction site to remove an American flag. It was too provocative, they said. Meanwhile, the statue of mass murderer Vladimir Lenin stands totally unmolested in the city of Seattle tonight. Officials there see nothing provocative about it. So where's Joe Biden on all of this as the revolution continues apace? Biden is supposed to be a moderate, remember? That was his chief appeal. But there was nothing moderate about Biden's 4th of July statement. Instead, it was a full-throated attack on the United States.
Our country was founded on an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We've never lived up to it. Jefferson himself didn't. He held slaves. Women were excluded. American history is no fairy tale. It's been a constant push and pull between the two parts of our character. The idea that all men and women, all people are created equal, and the racism that has torn us apart. We have a chance to rip the roots of systemic racism out of this country.
That's your 4th of July message? Systemic racism? Something you can't even define, that has no real definition? Really? Wagging your finger in the face of the nation that promoted someone as mediocre as you to the position you currently hold? This is the man who could soon be our figurehead. But how about the actual presidential candidate, whoever Biden picks as his VP running mate? Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois is a top contender for the job. You're not supposed to criticize Tammy Duckworth in any way because she once served in the military. Most people just ignore her. But when Duckworth does speak in public, you're reminded what a deeply silly and unimpressive person she is. Here's Tammy Duckworth from over the weekend telling us it's time to get rid of George Washington.
I know that you support changing the name of military bases named after Confederate leaders, but there are leaders like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson who were slave owners, and some people are demanding that their monuments come down too. So in your view, where does it end? Should statues, for example, of George Washington come down?
Well, let me just say that we should start off by having a national dialogue on it at some point.
A national dialogue, please. They're not looking for any kind of a colloquy. What they want is a soliloquy. We speak, you shut up and listen. So what to make of all of this? Well, it's long been considered out of bounds to question a person's patriotism. It's a very strong charge, and we try not ever to make it. But in the face of all of this, the conclusion can't be avoided. These people actually hate America. There's no longer a question about that. And yet, paradoxically, at the same time, they desperately want to control America more than anything. And that leads to the most basic of all questions. Can you really lead a country that you hate? Ask yourself, what kind of parent would you be if you hated your children? What kind of officer would you make if you didn't care about your troops? It would be awful. The results would be ugly. It would not work. Loving the people you lead, caring deeply about them, is the most basic prerequisite of leadership. The leaders of today's Democratic Party do not. They despise this country. They have said so. They continue to. That is shocking, but it is also disqualifying. We cannot let them run this nation because they hate it. Imagine what they would do to it.
All right, let's get to it. So, wrote down a few things, so I want to make sure I address them in some kind of chronological order for this video. The left can't control Trump. They want to hurt him. No one's trying to control Trump. He's the president of the United States. In that, there's an election coming up. He's not a king. We don't need to influence him or whatever else. November, thanks for playing. It's only people who have been controlling Trump are people on Fox News and Republicans in the Senate and stuff like that. They need them for the tax cuts. They need them for the Supreme Court. That's about it. And they're starting to kind of head towards the exits. No, any need to hurt him, nobody's thinking about. And of course, controlling him, he's not going to have any access to power, in the very near future. So nobody's worried about that. And he goes on with certain facts because he speaks the truth, even including something like Whoopi Goldberg is not funny. That's an undeniable fact. Funny. One of the most subjective things in society. A comedian who's had more success at comedy than Trump has had in real estate, than Trump has had in any business endeavor that he's went through. From real estate to the fake universities to anything else he's touched, it's just been garbage. So say all the lawsuits say, so says all of history of him doing it. He has a license agreement that puts out his name in this image of success. And y'all bought it, but it doesn't stand up to any scrutiny, so that's out of undeniably. But that's the kind of stuff Tucker does. He's just really weird about that stuff. He referred to the BLM riots. Now this is a game that he'll later complain about that the left does, which is take out sound bites and know that the imagery and the wording or whatever else will trigger that side. Just like he knows showing you fires burning and police cars and whatever else will trigger you. You can't call out that game while you play it. You're taking sound bites and reframing them for your audience. You can't complain that MSNBC has been doing that when that's exactly the methodology. But the reason I watch Tucker Carlson is because I do not want to be spoon-fed. I want to see if there are valid arguments on the other side that make sense, because my actual ultimate goal is for there to be some way forward, not just I made my smarmy point, you made your got your point, and then we walk away both self-satisfied. Let's agree on what we can agree on and take at least that step forward. But these people's bread isn't buttered on that side, so they have no reason for you to say, okay, well, what are the parts of Black Lives Matter movement that I can agree with? Start there. But if it's a anarchy group that's coming to rape your wife and your daughter, you don't have any willingness to work with anybody like that. And that's how they spend their days portraying it. Trump goes on. Black Lives Matter wants to overthrow the American Revolution. Then they're doing a piss poor job at it. I mean, you want to overthrow the American Revolution. I mean, that's really going in, tear up the Constitution, military coup, something else. It is not a peaceful protest by a bunch of white women with BLM signs. It's not. That's not how the American Revolution worked. That's not how the Civil War worked, was it? There's a lot of bloodshed, like hundreds of thousands. So comparing Target to the Boston Tea Party, comparing Target to the Civil War, a little bit of a stretch. And wants civilization gone, because American civilization has done more for the world than anybody else. If that makes sense to you, that makes sense to you. There's nothing I can say that'll change that. But most Americans know better, which I guess gets on to his next point. It shows an image of some of the Hong Kong protesters with an American flag. And then that does it. Black Lives Matter should go home and give up, because clearly America stands for freedom, because the Hong Kong protesters, some of them, had an American flag. But you're in the same position as China. It's funny how the people in this country side with Hong Kong, but don't side with Houston. Right? You got all the love in the world for people fighting for freedom everywhere but here. Like JFK said in '63. You're all for freedom somewhere else. How about all the people around the world hold up Black Lives Matter signs? You're isolated. You're in a small group. You're in a minority you're a minority in this country. Then you're a minority in the world. It is a universally recognized fact of black oppression in the United States. And to keep questioning that, to keep deflecting from that, doesn't address the problem, doesn't move anything forward, it's a non-starter. So it's silly. Then he goes on about, I knew it was coming, Carnegie and Rockefeller, because of course, Atlas Shrugged mentality that creates this network and this subculture that I went through 25 years ago with this. Because it's got to be around every generation. And of course, remember the answer to this was the Million Man March. Because it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up that the WARV, whites are the real victims. That as a property owner, enfranchised white male, you're the actual victim of America. We don't believe in victim politics, but we're the ones actually losing out. It is most ridiculous. Women don't have nothing to complain about. Minorities don't have nothing to complain about. You know who got something to complain about? Enfranchised white males. Yeah, we're the real victims. No, there should not be any complaining at all then. If I don't have anything to complain about as a black male in America, women don't have anything to complain about, gays don't have, there shouldn't even be any channels. But all of these people, Hannity, Limbaugh, Levin, they feed their families on feeding you the idea all day long that white people are the victims. They're the real victims. There's 300 seats in the classroom. 299 of them will go to white people, and all minorities will have to fight for that one seat. And we will not factor in blacks being lynched and burned and kept from breeding for centuries. We will not factor in passing along disadvantages from generation in. We will not factor in that this person had to come over burning glass to get here, or that they were banned from coming here a generation ago, so they can't be a legacy. We're not going to factor that in. We're simply going to go by merit that we've decided what merit is. So, schools don't teach that whites are great. What school you go to? What school you ever been to? What elementary, middle school, high school doesn't teach founding fathers, doesn't teach the American Revolution, doesn't teach everything that white people ever touched turned to gold? It can't even teach American history because we have to have Black History Month. So it has to do the narrative we want, and oh, by the way, we'll take the shortest month and mention a few things about Black contributors. If you did American history properly, it would just all be integrated. It would be everybody that was involved in the contemporary times. But you got this version that cuts everybody out for the security of white male egos and then come back and sparingly have a month or a week here to throw everybody and all their accomplishments together with no context. And then Trump's applause lines were more police brutality because we support our law enforcement, which is what got us in this mess when he got elected. He got rid of the reforms, he got rid of the oversight, he got rid of everything and said, go do your thing. Bang their head on the car, go do this, go do that. And that's what they did. And here we are. And we'll continue to celebrate slavery because our heritage are the people that attacked America. So I'm waiting on the Bin Laden statues. I'm waiting on the Hitler statues. I mean, if you're talking about people that attacked America, why is Che still up? Che didn't kill 200,000 Americans. So let's see. And again, complains about mainstream media sound bites and then shows sound bites. But I want to deal with that whole idea of the mainstream media. Because when this came through, it was about being the silent majority. We have all the power. We're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to be overrun. Now, it's about the mainstream media. You know what's the mainstream media? Because Americans, that Tucker Carlson's always referring to, most Americans don't watch Fox. Most Americans don't like Fox. Most Americans didn't vote for Trump. So when you start talking about the view of Americans, you're only talking about bigot America. There has not been a Republican to get the popular vote in this country in 28 years, with the exception of 2004, when W got it. That means most Americans do not share these views. Period. You are not America. That's what these white people and these companies are doing right now with Black Lives Matter. They're going, if it's a choice and we have to separate of trying to go back to 1850 or going towards 2050, we're going towards 2050. If this is still your America where police brutality is a thing and slavery is to be celebrated, it's going away. I don't know what you want to do about it, but it's going. It's not a debate. There's not enough tiki torches and Jews won't replace us to carry you over the finish line. It doesn't matter how many AR-15s you have, because just like you're complaining about, you're the only one with guns. And these other people, they've been practicing, cutting through flesh every day. So as soon as the one way you can stop black on black crime in Chicago is going down there with your race war. And let them focus on who the real enemy is. So this whole idea that you're going to muscle everybody to the ground and you can seize it and you can take it over, it's a wrap. What you need to do is get on board with the future. Stop trying to hang on to something that you claim you didn't have nothing to do with. You didn't have nothing to do with slavery. You didn't have anything. Then leave it alone. You didn't put up the statues. I didn't put up the statues. We can work together and figure out what statues go up, how they go up, how they look when they go up. That's the conversation. Not you're going to make sure you imposed them on us and they imposed on you taking them down. Now we can sit down and decide what we want to do from here. But as long as we're going to sit here and just force our will on each other, we're going to be in this stalemate. It's up to you. But it doesn't matter how much ranting and raving they do on Fox News and how much you support police brutality. It's 40 million black people, 800,000 cops. You do the math. We're not going to sit around and just be exterminated by law enforcement. Never mind, good deal the cops are black, good deal the military is black. You're not going to be able to do what you think is going to happen. Now, if you want another civil war, you want to do something about it, trying to uphold bigotry, knock yourself out. Yeah. We're out of things to lose. You have something to lose. And that's why the Republicans are going this way. They know we're enfranchised white males. If this thing goes up in smoke because we're trying to hold on to this Confederacy or whatever, this kind of nonsense, we lose power. Poor black people in inner city starving to death don't lose anything. You're going to lose everything. Trying to hold on to something that's not worth holding on to. And that's up to you. So, as always, fuck you. Don't care about your comments. Don't need you to subscribe. I'm a grown-ass man, so my life doesn't revolve around likes. I wish you all the best. I'm just some guy, and only I know what's best.